have the team on today from the option group. The main reason because as I had mentioned earlier, the option group is a positive aging community champion, but I've had a really close relationship with the option group and it's the founder, Ellen Platt, and many of the other team members of the option group for 15 years. And so the first order of business is we're celebrating a 15th year anniversary for the option group. So, Ellen, congrats to you. And why not kick it off here with telling us a little bit about yourself and then what led to you founding this leader in the world of aging life care management 15 years ago?
Well, thank you, Steve. I'm excited to be here. And before I go into myself, I also want to say thank you to you. You should have gotten a box from the option group because you've been a great community partner of ours. Steve and I met probably 20 years ago, about 5 years before I started the option group. I've been doing this type of work for 36 years. So I was doing it a little bit beforehand, but did a lot more in the world of catastrophic injuries than necessarily with aging. But we've focused the practice working with folks with dementia and families that are struggling with catastrophic injury, chronic diseases, or maybe even special needs as they need to start to adult and families are trying to figure out how do we even start that process once they age out of the public school system. So thank you for having us, and thank you for your partnership, Steve. You've been a great ambassador for the option group. Thank you.
Yeah, no. And what we're gonna do today is have a little roundtable with some of the care managers on your team, but who we're gonna meet. But before we do that, I guarantee there are a few people that have tuned in today that this is the first time they've heard of aging life care. So, Ellen, if you don't mind, can you give a crack at providing what your definition of aging life care is? And I know I've got this graphic that I know both of us like to use that shows the 8 areas of aging life care. This is produced by the association that you all are members of, the Aging Life Care Association. But would you like to take a crack at the definition of what aging life care is for
Sure.
those that may not be familiar with it?
Well, more often than not, we get a call when there's a time of crisis. Sometimes we do get calls from people who are trying to be proactive or solo agers who don't have an advocate or somebody who can be available to help them if they end up having a medical crisis. But we often get a call and we go and do an assessment, and we're looking at these 8 core areas of expertise that we have, which is looking at chronic health conditions and disabilities and medications, the kind of a financial picture of what do we have to work with, because any care plan we come up with, we want it to be sustainable in terms of finances, and we look at what kind of health care that they might have. We look at their housing. Is it something that they can remain in? Is it something that has stairs that they can no longer? Or perhaps they need a facility and they're looking for placement somewhere that can provide the support that they need. We look at psychosocial supports, family, community resources. We do a lot of advocacy. So if they're in and out of transitions of care, we're there helping them get through those transitions as seamlessly as possible, making sure they've got their legal documents in place, and again, that crisis intervention. So we're sort of at the hub of this wheel with the family members as well as the individual receiving services. We just help them navigate whatever the situation is that they're dealing with and whatever their challenges are.
Love it. I've been doing a lot of these roundtables with aging life care managers, and I like rattling off these. Some of the care managers refer to themselves as wedding planners for growing older. Another one referred to themselves as the quarterback for those that like the sports analogies. And then the last one, it's ironic that we have a discussion next week called wingman because that's how another referred to themselves as a wingman for all these I don't want to call these difficult decisions. These are life decisions that we all make. and they can be challenging and difficult, but just having somebody by your side makes a huge difference. And so
Yep.
the in any event, okay, well, we're gonna get to meet some of your team members, but give us before we do that, give us a sort of a overview of how big is the practice these days, and you cover a pretty large geographic footprint as well.
Mhm. Yep. Well, we started in Maryland. We're based in Hunt Valley, and we provide services all over Maryland, Delaware, which is where Sonequa is, and Pennsylvania in the southeastern quadrant of Pennsylvania, so Harrisburg to Philly and down. We also do some work in DC and a tiny bit into Northern Virginia. So we have 8 care managers sprinkled throughout those areas, and they know the resources really well in that area, that geographic region, so they can help families navigate the resources that are available to them.
I love that. And before I meet Jackie, one of your team members, I want to just, especially for those folks that may be tuned in and you're outside the Mid-Atlantic region where the option group serves, it's really easy to connect with other aging life care managers in every part of the country. If you go to aginglifecare.org, you type in and you just go to the upper right-hand corner, there's this little orange button that says find an aging life care manager, and you can just, type in a zip code, and we'll pull up a list of aging life care managers in your region. And there and there's Ellen, for example. And Jackie, holy cow. So that was a lucky guess on the zip code there. But in any event, it's an amazing resource. And Ellen, one thing that I've found is that I've been in this business for 35 years, when I only knew a couple of what we call geriatric care managers back there. I don't know if you've seen this in your career, but back in the day, nobody really had ever heard of geriatric care management. And now it seems like I could be at a social event and people are telling me about how they hired an aging life care manager. It blows my mind. I never thought that we would get to this point where your profession is so well known in the general public.
Yeah. I mean, most people are either in the caregiving role or have been or going to be, and they're looking for resources to figure it out because it's really confusing. The healthcare maze is changing and confusing, and there's a lot of bad information and people using Dr. Google and things like that. And it's really nice to have somebody, because a big part of our role is education, just helping people
Mhm.
understand what the options are.
I love it. Okay. All right. Well, let's get to meet some of your team members. And I'm going to start first with Jackie. Jackie, tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to this profession.
So, welcome everybody. Good to see you. So my profession started, really. I had a relative that had a terrible accident, and it was a terrible burn. And there were a lot of individuals involved along the years, that got me interested, and I pursued social work. I think because of that. And I was lucky enough to actually work in a lot of different places throughout the United States. I was in, Michigan, Maryland, Washington State, Hawaii, and then back to Maryland. So I guess I feel like I like to have all my tools and gather tools as I go. Still to this day, lifelong learning. We all pick up different, ways to view things and ways to navigate. So I've been with Ellen about 8 years. I think I just hit 8 years, and it's a wonderful career to be able to meet with people, identify what could potentially be an issue or a challenge for them, and reach into my toolkit, that I've built over 30 to 40 years. I hate to say 40, but
Oh, it's great.
but yeah, but it definitely is helpful, and I have to acknowledge my co-workers as well, because without them, I wouldn't be able to do what I do because we help each other. So that's a little bit about me. There you go.
That's great. Now, what we thought we would do today is get to know each of you, and then if you can kind of share some insights, a story, some things that are in your tool belt that would help those out there, whether they're working with an aging life care manager or not. You all see so many different scenarios, and do you have anything that comes to mind that you'd like to share with our community?
My nuggets is like stay as connected to friends and family as they age and as we age. I guess the way I look at it is, we all age, and we will all be in that category someday. That it's really better to try to kind of stay close, and don't be afraid to ask the questions, to kind of find out where an aging relative or an aging friend might be in their life. And when I say don't assume that everything is fine, even though that's the answer that we get all the time. One of my other ones is, that aging is not for the faint of heart. We have to be really flexible, to kind of get to the other side of a solution. And I guess I go back to the vulnerabilities, especially for the aging population, because as people age, their financial status can change with loss of a spouse. Their social platform can change, from being in a marriage to being widowed. Financially, things can change for them, having an income, for two people, then down to one. Those things are really important to try to pay attention to, and to try to be patient, and to try to provide guidance and as much information, as we can.
Jackie, I love what you said about being connected to friends, family, uh, and I don't know if you said this intentionally, but I liked what you did. Is that oftentimes when people suggest that, it's implied that I am reaching out to this network that I've developed for help. And you said something where you recommending that people check in with those people in their lives, not to help you, but how you could help them. And what I've found is that this approach is the way to build our personal village, in that let's think about, while we can, how we can help other people. That help can come back to us in the future, and none of us have a crystal ball.
So true. I was going to say, very nicely
Yeah.
said. Yeah, I agree.
All
Absolutely.
right. I want to get to some of the questions that are coming in, but let's meet the rest of the team, and then folks, just keep these things coming in. These are some awesome questions that you're asking. Okay. So let's see. How about I go to Saniqua next? Saniqua, tell us a little bit about your background and what led to this career path.
So I have a very extensive background in human services. Started out in child welfare, but over the last 10 years, 10 plus years, I've worked for Delaware State, auditing all of their facilities within the state. And I also was supervising a mental health and substance abuse unit within the state as well. And I worked for an insurance company for long-term care as a social worker. And now I'm here. So what led me to
Wow.
this, yes, what led me to this is I kind of love the idea of, your life is a full circle, changing in life. So you start out as a baby, people care for you, they're molding you and bringing you up and giving you all the things that you need. And then if you're lucky, you make it to the elder age, where it's kind of that same thing. You need people to actually care for you, take care of you, and to make sure that you have everything that you need, and that if you're lucky, you can age in place as independent as you can. Um, So, working as a care manager for elderly people, I find that you have to be compassionate, have some empathy, and also just realize that they're really struggling in a lot of ways because now you may be losing your independence, you may be losing the type of life that you're used to, and you just have to be willing to listen because you can still learn from them as well and try to help them the best you can and also ensure that they have the supports that they need along the way.
I love it. And the you know, one of the things that I know that you all are skilled at and you deal with on a daily basis is this, as you said, Saniqua, when we're children, it's implied that people are going to take care of us and they're going to help us. And then we go through life living completely independently. Nobody needs to help me, you know.
Yeah.
And now, and again, it's not a guarantee, but for some of us, we may need to sort of shift to maintain a purposeful life. We need some people in our lives to help us. Okay. And that emotionally is really hard for a lot of people. Would you say,
Yeah.
Saniqua?
I definitely see that. I've worked with plenty of my clients that it's a struggle. And I really sympathize with them because I know that when I get older, I would struggle if I had to depend on someone else to take care of me and to make sure that I had all the things that I needed. So I am very understanding of the struggles with that. And sometimes they might not be the happiest people, and you have to understand that. But I've had clients that in the end, they're thankful for the assistance and for people just to treat them still like they're a person that wants to have their own life and make their own decisions as much as they can.
Yeah, no, great insights there. All right, let's get to our next care manager on the team is Samantha Morlock. Samantha, you know the drill now. Tell us a little bit about you, and then I'm curious at some insights that you can use to kind of fuel the fire for our discussion today.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Samantha Morlock. I've been with Ellen and the team for 8 going on 9 years here. So a good chunk of time. And I have my master's in counseling, actually, and with a focus in marriage and family therapy. So not your typical path into this profession necessarily, but I think both things are really rooted in the desire to help others, care for others, and help navigate others through life's changes and challenges. So it's ended up being a pretty good fit with my background. So yeah.
One
I
thing I'd
love it.
like to point out, Steve, with Sam as an example, when she started, she was a care management associate. So that is our progression here at the Option Group, where people can move up, and she has a master's in a allied health field. She was able to gain experience, and she's been promoted to a care manager because she's developed her skills over that length of time. So we're really proud of Sam.
I love it. And you know, Sam, also the you brought up that you're a counselor in therapy, and this is another area of stigma, similar to independence, is that it's changing big time with the younger generations. But for a lot of older adults now, like going to talk to a therapist or any kind of mental health service is there's
Taboo.
this negative stigma around it. But maybe share with some of the insights that you've gained in your profession about the value of talk therapy for folks.
Sure. I mean, we see it a lot, whether they're at home or in a facility, everyone can have mental health struggles. And something that I've really appreciated within several communities local to us is the partnership with mental health services that actually come into facilities. It's allowing for a lot more access to people that need it and can't necessarily get out and about. And then there's also the tech development of offering telehealth services and making things more, accessible for everyone.
I love it. All right. Well, I've run around the Brady Bunch thing here, and now I'm back to Ellen. And Ellen, any sort of insights that you glean that could be helpful to folks out there based on what you've been doing over your career as a care manager?
One of the things I've noticed in doing this work is that we find out that aging is really about wellness in all aspects of our lives. So a lot of people think, do I have enough money to retire? Do I have enough, like, whatever to retire? I'm going to go travel. But what I always encourage people to do is be proactive, even if you don't consider yourself a senior, kind of like Jackie was saying, stay connected. There's a lot of other areas of wellness like social, emotional, spiritual, financial, purpose, things like that. So we need to be sure that throughout our lifetime, we're reflecting on those and we're adding to those buckets. So we have something in the bucket when we get to the end of life and we have supports that we might need, and ability to live as independently and enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah. And the tough thing about these chapters in our lives that we call aging or whatever you want to call it is that not what I've discovered is none of us have a crystal ball. Like you can eat right, you can be healthy, you can do all the right stuff, and we all need to do the right stuff. And you could wake up one morning and you've got a diagnosis, or you have a fall, and all of a sudden you've got to rely on a team, or you've got to activate the plan that you put in place that you never wanted to activate. And doing that alone can be really challenging. And so obviously I think one of the things that's apparent to me whenever I do these roundtables, it's great to have organization and individual like you all or your colleagues in the Aging Life Care Association helping us out, and so we don't have to go that journey on our own. All right. Well, this has been great. So now let's dive into some of the questions that are coming in. And the first one that came in today is a pretty good one, from Deborah, who is talking about solo agers, and which is now this term that people are aware of, and it's one of the things that I think is really adding fuel to the fire for your profession, because many solo agers are getting um, relationships with aging life care managers years in advance of ever needing your services, so that they just have this trusted relationship with somebody that can help them navigate. But what Deborah is asking, she says, do you find that the legal and medical systems are becoming more open to using less restrictive alternatives, or is there still system significant hurdles to overcome for defaulting to a court-appointed guardianship? So Deborah's got a lot of stuff in this. I guess first off, would one of you sort of talk about what a court-appointed guardian is and means, and then what are some of the alternatives to that?
Yeah, I actually attended the National Guardianship Association conference last year, and that was one of the big topics, is that not everybody, in the past, we used to just go right to the guardianship, but not everybody needs that. There are ways that you can do supported decision making with somebody who maybe cannot make full decisions for themselves or complex decisions. So it definitely is more of a movement. A lot of states are actually enacting laws so they don't have to go straight for the guardianship. So yes, the answer is yes, that the legal and medical system are becoming more open to these ideas of less restrictive forms of assistance and supported decision making in lieu of guardianship.
But more importantly, I think Deborah's question brings up the fact that, look, with proper planning and conversations in advance, we can all avoid a guardianship situation. But I think a lot of times the guardianship is the result of somebody not putting a plan in place. Am I correct?
Yeah. Yep, and that's what the power of attorney documents would be, somebody who can make decisions for you in the event you're not able to. And that means your health care, but also means your finances. So having people who are appointed who can step in when you're at the point where you're no longer able to make those decisions, that bypasses the guardianship process.
Yeah. Now, since Deborah brought up the topic of solo aging, I'm gonna just kind of like dive a little bit deeper into this in terms of I know you and all aging life care managers are getting clients calling these days that are, hey, look, I don't think I've got anybody in my life for healthcare or financial power of attorney, and I'm turning to you to help me through this. Can you all share some of the conversations that you had or the suggestions that you offer people that are in this very what can be a very challenging boat for a lot of people to sleep with?
Yeah, we do work with families that are, they're working, they're living independently, they're in their own home, living their life, but they want us in their back pocket, so to speak. So if they have a medical event or they end up at the hospital, that they have somebody that they can call who is familiar with them, what their wishes are, what their medical conditions are, and we can jump right in. And they'd rather do that. In some cases, we have even taken on the role of being the power of attorney. But Jackie could speak to, she works with a couple of couples that are exactly that, independent, living their lives, but she goes and sees them every 6 months. I'll let Jackie talk about that.
Oh, this is great, Jackie.
So, yeah, just like Ellen said, we have some folks who are proactive, which is absolutely phenomenal and probably like a cornerstone of what everyone should do. And I'll use an analogy like we all take care of our cars. We know our cars have to be oil changed and, all these services at certain times. And I think as people, we need to kind of do the same thing with our healthcare and our mental health and our plans, as we move forward. But as far as being proactive, I have some clients that, signed on, years ago because they don't have adult children, and their relatives all live out of state. So, their choice was, you know what, we need somebody in state that knows what's going on, kind of knows a little bit about our medical history, knows a little bit about our finances, and that when the time comes, if something doesn't seem quite right, that we can jump in and we can avoid a crisis and try to come up with a plan and put it into place so that there's not a lot of time lost and a lot of stumbling blocks and obstacles. So that's probably one of the things that we do as a group collectively is try to identify obstacles and try to figure out how to get around them, and make things as smooth as possible. And as a lot of my clients hear me say, put all four wheels on the track to make it move correctly. So.
I like it. The now, Ellen, I think you had mentioned that in some situations you might agree to be a healthcare power of attorney for client. And obviously it's healthcare only. Somebody else would have to handle the financial power of attorney, correct?
Correct. Yep, we don't do the financial piece. We do the healthcare power of attorney, help them make decisions, and eventually would make end of life decisions. Jackie and I both work on a couple of cases where there's another care manager who either is the guardian or has the power of attorney, and we are the ones doing the care management or vice versa. So that's another collaborative relationship we have with other care managers.
And folks, one of the reasons that I'm kind of diving into this is that I think that this is a solution for folks that are solo agers, in that like a lot of times we're searching for that one person in our life that could be financial and healthcare power of attorney. and this is it's an overwhelming job. Okay, and the value of just having an aging life care manager on our team that is this informed advocate and somebody that can help us make those decisions, it can really take a lot of stress relief off this very important and challenging job of managing somebody's money when they can't manage. Because, like, let's say that somebody needs a memory care community. Um, that's a very challenging, making that evaluation and how expensive it is. Uh, Having just a team approach to this can be a lot more logical, and it also provides checks and balances too.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's see. Tom Batchko asks, what is the best way to stay connected with the aging care market? I've got an answer to this, but I'm curious, what are some of the ways that you all stay connected to other aging care providers, and where would somebody else go out there and make connections as well?
Just about every county in Maryland has a senior provider network. And there are people who provide services to seniors in just about anything you can possibly think of, whether it's in the home or different facilities or services that come to you. So we definitely do that, and get to meet people on a regular basis. There's usually an educational component that goes along with that. Um, Conferences, things like that, and just networking groups in general.
Yeah, and I dropped in, at least here in the Mid-Atlantic, a list of all the networking groups. That's exactly how I was going to answer the question too, Ellen. And here's another little pro tip. Um, I run some of these networking groups in the region, and we are getting more and more older adults and family members that are popping into these networking events. They're a great place to meet a ton of providers and get your questions answered in less of a sort of expo style, environment where we many times go and meet people like this. Okay. I see that Jean and Jose both have the question that always comes up on one of these discussions is how much does this cost? And can you give us an idea of when somebody is consulting with aging life care managers, a little bit about how this is paid for, and does long-term care insurance pay for any of this?
So rarely do we see long-term care insurance policies that will pay for it. Some of them do. A lot of them tend to be older ones, and they have a certain amount every year that would qualify for that. We don't see that very often. It's mostly private pay. Sometimes there's a trust in place that's paying for their care, so that would pay us, or it's privately paid. So we're much like an accountant or an attorney. We have an hourly rate. We track the time that we spend and send an invoice once a month. I would say in Maryland, probably the range is anywhere from $150 to $300 an hour, depending on the activity or the level of the care manager. But it's definitely a pretty wide range across the country.
And then, uh, Dean, I think, had a question specifically about the program for solo agers where you develop a relationship. Would one of you like to talk a little bit about that? And I mean, I know it's just your program, but how much that costs or how you pay for that?
Could you repeat that question, Steve?
She was asking about, please address the costs, especially the proactive advanced preparation situation for a solo ager. So I imagine, like, with some of those programs, you're just meeting with the client once or twice a year just to keep that relationship going because there's not an overwhelming crisis.
Right. So we would go do that initial assessment and look at all those areas, the 8 core areas that we talked about, and really get a good understanding of what that person's needs are. Then typically we'll meet them in 6 months. So they're not paying, some places will do a flat rate every month. we've chosen not to do that. So we will go see them every 6 months or so. Of course, they can always call us if there's an event or they have a question or whatever. But typically we'll just see them every 6 months unless they start going into care, and then we'll go into care management mode.
And typically those meetings are a couple of hours, so they're just paying your hourly rate for that
Correct.
period of time. Okay.
Correct. Yep.
Great. Okay, Gene, hopefully that helps you there. Okay, let's see. Gloria says, Jesse Jackson's kids just did a press conference this morning, okay, and about the substantial caregiving from both family and for professionals. Okay, we all got to check that out. Thanks, Gloria. And the just trying to see if there's a question here. The okay, it's saying a neurodegenerative disorder, PSP, a neurodegenerative disorder that typically is misdiagnosed as Parkinson's for years. Well, maybe let's kind of dovetail that into advocating for folks, because um, oftentimes when we're alone in hospital with ourselves or our loved ones, and somebody with a white coat comes and tells you something, that's what we that's gospel. And um, what are some of the techniques that you as care managers use kind of help people understand that they can advocate for themselves and they don't necessarily need to listen to every doctor that comes into their um their medical appointment?
Yeah, a lot of times it is about the education. All of us have worked in medical settings, and we have a general working knowledge of a lot of the different conditions, and we're always doing continuing ed and educating ourselves on the latest and the greatest of research, or whatever the best practices are. So we ask lots of questions. We don't just take it as gospel. We're always digging in and asking questions and verifying information. And if we're concerned about the whether information is true or true for this person, we're going to request a second opinion or dive into it a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I mean, one huge benefit of having an educated wingman or quarterback in with you evaluating these appointments, because it is very difficult. And the thing that I think makes people so frustrated is that after some medical episode that they experienced, they're telling the story of it, and somebody says, well, why did you do that? You don't have to do that. And it's like, oh, I wish I knew that. And what I hear a lot of when we do discussions like this, I wish I knew that there was aging life care managers when I was helping my parent or neighbor or whoever. Let's see. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Uh, okay. Oh, Lucy asks, do you all work with home care agencies, and how do you provide those referrals when a home care agency is something that one of your clients needs?
Anyone for the team want to answer that? I don't want to monopolize.
Yeah, I was going to say, go ahead, Sam.
Sure. I mean, that's a common thing that we get. Someone's looking for a home care agency to come in, typically when someone's still at home and as a means to stay in their home. And, this kind of goes back to our networking piece. We do at least monthly networking, if not more. We're getting to know, the people in the area, trusted referral partners that we can, in good faith, recommend to our clients as good people to work with. So yeah, absolutely. And also when we're in and out of our clients, whether it's at home or the facility, we're paying attention to who's working with them. Are they doing a good job? Will we then recommend them to someone else? So yeah, absolutely providing referrals to our clients is something that we do, and what people are looking for our knowledge on. So.
And again, folks, uh, one of the best things about having an aging life care manager in your back pocket when you're engaged with the home care agency or your loved ones in an assisted living is that eh, as much as providers out there are doing our best to do the very best job for our loved ones, there are often things that might confuse you, or there might be a mistake, or it might not be a mistake, but you think it's a mistake, and but having an advocate, it's like having a rock star with you going backstage, because Provider Network knows that, oh, this is Cindy and she's a client of the option group. It just is very helpful. I've got a friend of the family right now that is engaged with a home care agency, and they have what they think are some problems, and they're trying their best to work it out with the owner of the agency. And I shared with them, uh, it would be really good for your care management in general to have an aging life care manager help manage all the providers that you have coming into your mom's home, and also helping you in these difficult situations.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to add on to that, Steve, I'm like, yeah, that's absolutely something that we do, is like kind of that third party coming in. You have a problem with the home care agency, you let us know, and we kind of step in and say, hey, let's work to resolve this, right? And that way it's like it's not on the family member to have that sort of
No,
conflict moment.
exactly. And one of the things that I want to really reiterate, it's like every business, every individual, especially in human service, there are always problems and confusion and miscommunication and complication. And when oftentimes when we resolve these things, creates a better working relationship. So um I always like folks not to just jump ship on a provider when there's a problem. It's resolve that problem, because it can oftentimes be a lot better, and now you got to establish a new relationship with a new provider. So sometimes that happens, but it's in all of our best interest, and it makes it a lot easier when you got somebody like an aging life care manager helping you. Okay. Julie's got a story here that she's sharing about a family member that did everything right, and last week under the county public guardian, it looks like this individual really took all the steps that they could, but ultimately they were a guardian ad litem, and it's yeah, I mean, this world that we work in, this senior living ecosystem, is very confusing. I think, Julie, my heart goes out to your friend who thought they were taking all the right steps, and probably may have even taken the right steps, because of the players that are there, finds themselves in an unfortunate situation. It just reiterates again the value of having conversations with as many folks in as many scenarios that could happen to us, can benefit us all. Um, the
Even
now
though an aging life care manager may not necessarily be able to resolve a situation like that, we definitely can link you with elder law attorneys or guardianship attorneys who deal with these types of situations every day to guide the family.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. Tom has a great question. It's, what services do you provide to your clients that are living in CCRCs or life plan communities? And folks, just so you know, a CCRC life plan community takes independent assisted nursing and oftentimes memory care. puts it all together on one campus. The concept here is that somebody can live their lifetime in this community, no matter what kind of healthcare situation occurs. But out of curiosity, do you all have any clients living in these types of communities?
Yes, we help them find the right location and understand the payment models, things like that. Once they're in the facility, though, we it doesn't matter to us where they are. If they're at home, they're in the hospital, they're in rehab, they're in a facility. So we follow them through those transitions of care. So a lot of times people want us to do maybe even take them to doctor's appointments because they want to stay connected with their physician in the community and not necessarily the one that's within the CCRC. Maybe they're not agreeing that, the facility CCRC is saying they need to progress to the next level. We can create that care scenario independent so that they can stay there before having to progress to the next level. Saniqua, any of you guys have something to add?
I can speak to that as well. I definitely have clients in CCRCs, and the walk with them is really important, to make sure, like Ellen is saying, that independent dwelling is independent. They're not handing out medications. They're not watching them as closely as assisted living. And as a care manager, it's our role to be aware of all those things and to know what it is that they're receiving, what it is that they need, and be able to kind of make that transition happen when it's necessary. Sometimes we get pushback from the clients, but the options would be to try to potentially keep them in independent longer with extra supports, or encourage them, this is why you paid into the system, the CCRC, so that you can go to the next level where your medications in assisted living are provided, and the care, all the programming, obviously all the meals. So everything under the sun is included. So it's helpful, once again, to know their finances so that you can assist them, with those decisions. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what a great, if you're looking into different living options, enlisting an aging life care manager is great because you're not going this journey on your own. So that's great. And then they're there. You guys are there if they need help down the road. Okay, because we're on housing, uh, FIBU, we folks, we have an interesting mix of people that attend these discussions. We have people that are planning for their future, we have family members, and we have professionals. And Cebu has a small assisted living community in a home-like environment. It's a lot of times folks don't realize that there are large assisted livings that we drive by every day. And then there's the smaller residential assisted livings. And she was asking, is this something that you all have referred your clients to in the past, the smaller assisted livings?
Yes. Yep. Our role is to find the best fit for our client. Some of it may be a geographic consideration, a financial consideration, and a clinical consideration, amongst other things. Maybe they have a pet that they want to make sure can come with them. That will eliminate some of the options. So our role is to find the best fit for that person.
Okay, great. And Cebu, I put Ellen and Noel's emails in chat there. The best way to just make sure that they know that you're on the radar is send them an email so that
Thank
they
you.
know that you're out there.
I have
Okay.
one thing to add.
Yeah.
So another thing that we see a lot is where there's couples. So there's a lot of facilities that are able to accommodate a couple living together opposed to them being separated. And that's something that we also can help the family navigate what's the best option. Because sometimes they may have two different levels of care, but there are facilities out there that will still be able to work with them.
I love that. It's not easy to find, especially if they want to stay together in the same apartment. That
Exactly.
takes a little bit of creativity sometimes
Hmm.
in these communities. Um, okay, this is a good from Dick. She said he asks, are there differences or restrictions with working with a social worker at a CCRC versus working with an aging life care manager? So I believe most CCRCs have a social worker on staff, and they're serving the entire community. But um, your role is a little bit different. But do you find that you sometimes work in conjunction with the social worker at the CCRC?
Yeah, we will work with social workers in the hospital, in rehab, in any of the facilities and CCRCs as well. We will work in conjunction. They're working in a silo though. Their job is like contained to the four walls of that wherever they are. In a hospital, their role is to get them to the door. Our role is to continue that out in the community and make sure that they get everything that they need. In the instance of a CCRC, there may be times that we're collaborating with the social worker or going to care plan meetings because they're working inside the building, but we understand what the needs are for that particular person. And if we need to add other services, we can.
And oh, that's great. And I love Jean's question here. She says, I looked into a life care manager in 2017 for my mom in California, but ended up not using one. They were all individual solo practices. Are there more agencies like yours with several life care managers on staff? And she happens to be in Northern California. Um, I'll let you guys talk about this, but I've definitely seen Jean the the explosion of this field, and one of the main benefits are larger practices. uh it's great for you all as care managers, but it's also great for the customers too.
Yeah, we definitely see practices are growing. When I first started, there were a lot of sole practitioners like me. Um, there still are a lot, but we have grown to the point where if you hire one of us, you have all of our areas of expertise because we're collaborating on files, sharing resources all the time. But we are seeing more and more agencies that are growing and adding to their staff depending on the demand.
Holy cow. Okay, Joanne Lynn, folks, you can read her comment in chat. But she is a solo ager. She decided to move into a CCRC. She found one that didn't have as a large entry fee. In her community, they accommodate couples. She has an elder care attorney and an aging life care manager that she meets with twice a year. Joanne, I want to invite you. You send me an email if you'd be open to being interviewed, because your story is a story that people need to hear. That we're not just lecturing people on doing this. It's a real life story like yours, Joanne, is something that we definitely want to share with the positive aging community. Thumbs up to you and hats off for making what I know is a difficult decision. Because let's face it, y'all, and this is for our panel, as much as we try to get people to plan like Joanne, I'm willing to bet that most of your calls are crisis calls.
Yeah, they are. And congratulations, Joanne, for being so proactive. We love to see that.
Yeah, yeah. And everybody's happy by Joanne there. It's so rare, when somebody not rare in our community, because the people that tune into these discussions are open to planning ahead. Gladys also says thoroughly researching the financials of the respective CCRCs is critical. This can be a huge investment. And yeah, I agree. And oftentimes, like as Ellen said, just having somebody other than the marketing staff that can just walk you through the um, contract so that you understand in layperson's language what you're signing up for. But I do a lot of comparison to life plan communities and choosing a college for somebody. they're both expensive decisions, and but they're more importantly, you're you're a part of a community that helps you live a more purposeful life, and yeah, it's more expensive because our mortgage may be paid off for the last 20 years, but what it can do to enhance your life be very beneficial, just like going away to a kid going away to college. Um, Holy cow. I just looked at the clock and we have burned through an hour. This has been great. I'd love to give you all the opportunity if there's anything that you didn't share today that you'd like to share. Um, uh, just jump in.
I just appreciate everybody attending today and educating themselves. That's what we're here for. If you even need to just call and pick a brain, we do a free 30-minute consult for anybody. So if they're just kind of wanting to dip their toe and see what it's like, we're happy to have those conversations.
I love it. And I'll make sure that we've got the links to the option group and everything on the recording there. But let's remind ourselves one of the reasons we came together today is we're celebrating 15 years of this great resource to the community. Congrats to you, Ellen, and to all of your team members, the ones that are here and the ones that aren't. You really created a great resource for the community.
Yeah, we've got a great team who are dedicated to taking care of vulnerable people and making their lives better.
I love it. All right, folks. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks to all the great questions. I'm always blown away at the unique questions that come up every time in these discussions. And we'll see you all soon. And again, congrats to the option group and your team.
Thank you, Steve, and thanks for being such a great partner.
You bet.
Thank you.